Hi there, I'm Noel, I'm a CPA, and I make videos on YouTube. I wanted to make my own video on these market crash type videos because I see a bunch of them on YouTube and I wanted to chime in. And I didn't want to rehash the same type of video. So this is my take on, are we headed towards another market crash? So I've lived through two of the worst market crashes in modern history. The dot-com bust, I was there. I was making money hand over fist with tech and internet stocks. I felt like the only direction for stocks was higher. Back then, anything with a .com in its name soared. If a company said they were building an online presence, the stock would jump overnight, even if they had no revenue or no real business plan. It didn't matter. And if you weren't invested, you felt like an idiot. Your friends were in. They wouldn't stop bragging about how much money they were making. Back then, I remember sitting at our local bar and everyone was talking about the hot stock of the week. That's when I should have known that the market was topping out. I mean, all the signs were there, but I didn't. That did make me nervous because we all know the Wall Street saying, when the guy shining your shoes gives you stock tips, you know it's probably time to get out. When the crash hit, it hit really hard. Margin calls wiped out people I knew. My friend Jim, may he rest in peace, called me in a panic. He said, how are your stocks doing? I just said, not good. And honestly, I had to get off the phone because I got so emotional. I didn't even want to face it or talk about it. We all said the same thing afterwards. Why didn't we pull some money out and buy real estate? Years later, the great financial crisis of 2008 happened. I was a little older, a little wiser. I didn't have as much in the stock market that time around, but I'd seen the signs, the high values, the speculation, the irrational exuberance, and I was more cautious. And then the housing market started correcting. I bought my home around that time and I got a pretty good deal. So when I say the warning signs of another crash are flashing again today, I'm not trying to scare you. I'm really not even trying to prepare you. I'm trying to prepare myself and maybe those around me. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the same warning signs I saw and lived through before both crashes. Back in the late 90s, things were, let's just say, insane. If a company added a .com to its name, the stock would just about double overnight. They didn't even need revenue or a business model or even a working product. All they needed was a good story and some hype. I remember reading an article in Barron's magazine about the bookstore company Books A Million planning to build an online store, and boom, their stock skyrocketed the next day. I actually got swept up in the hype. I placed a market order. I know it was a huge mistake and I was trading on margin. What happened was the stock gapped up huge that Monday morning and it fell right back down. And just like that, I lost about $10,000. I was gutted. Back then, it didn't matter if a company had zero fundamentals. The markets didn't really care. And if you weren't in on it, you felt kind of stupid. All your friends were making money and telling you about it. And if you weren't invested, you felt left out. And that's the thing. The psychology becomes so overpowering. It's like a drug. Even if you know it can't last forever, you couldn't bring yourself to get off the ride. You just tell yourself, just a little bit longer. Sure, there were warning signs everywhere, and there were smaller dips before the big crash, but nobody wanted to believe the party would ever end. Because this time was different, we would tell ourselves. Then the crash hit, and let me tell you, it was brutal. Afterwards, we all wished we'd sold some stocks and bought some real estate or just cashed out a little bit. But that's hindsight. We weren't thinking long-term. We were swept up in the mania. At the time, I even read the book by Charles Mackay, Extraordinary Popular Delusions and the Madness of Crowds. I understood the history. I knew about tulip mania, the South Sea bubble, all of it. But it didn't matter because when you're inside the bubble, it doesn't feel like a bubble. You just get so swept up in the mania. I believe that same psychological pull is still around today. Now, I'm not saying there's going to be a crash tomorrow, and I'm definitely not saying tech or crypto or AI are doomed. They may go up much higher, or they may not. What I am saying is some of what's going on in today's markets, let's just say, reminds me of the dot-com bubble days. And before I forget, let me put up a chart that caught my attention. I found this on social media, and it says that the stock market just hit its most expensive valuation in history. Higher than the run-up to the dot-com bubble, higher even than right before the Great Depression. That doesn't mean it can't keep going up for a while, but it should at least make you pause and think. How far from the mean have we drifted, and how long can it really last? Maybe you see it too, the hype, the disconnect from fundamentals, the sky-high valuations, and the absolute lack of fear in the market, and all of it happening in an environment of spiraling debt, unchecked money printing, and government overspending. Maybe because we're just experiencing a great melt-up across everything, and this is the new normal. I don't know. But just remember, reversion to the mean is real, and a lot of people today have no idea how far from the mean we've actually drifted. Now again, I don't have all the answers. I'm not here to time the market or tell anyone what to do. I just want to share what I've seen and what I've lived through. And I hope it helps someone out there to approach things with maybe a little bit more caution and perspective. I'm not the same guy I was during the dot-com bubble days. I still invest, but I don't speculate, and I definitely don't chase returns, and I definitely don't gamble. You won't find me trading on margin or betting on something because it's trending on Reddit. I've learned that if something seems too good to be true, it probably is. And when everyone is convinced something can only go up, that's usually when the risk is highest. I care more about preservation of capital than return of capital, and I think that's important today. I'd rather miss out on the top 20% of a rally than get crushed in the first 50% of a crash. And trust me, I've been there. That's just me. That's what experience has taught me. I know it's tempting to jump into the hype. I've done it. I've lived that fear of missing out. And to be honest, that feeling never truly goes away. But today, I remind myself, you don't build real wealth by gambling, which, by the way, is the same thing as speculating. You build it by being consistent, by making thoughtful and careful decisions, by staying grounded, even when the crowd around you is losing their mind. I can't tell you what to do, but I can tell you what I wish I had done back then. I want this video to be the kind of thing that I want my kids to watch someday, because this won't be the last time a market bubble forms. It never is. But maybe, just maybe, we don't have to learn the same lessons the hard way every single time. I like to tell my kids there's two ways to learn things. You can either learn from your own mistakes, or you can learn from observing and learning from the mistakes of others. I've lived through two big crashes, and I've seen the signs, the hype, the euphoria, the blind optimism. And I'm seeing echoes of that again today. That doesn't mean a crash is coming tomorrow. It doesn't mean everything is doomed. But I think it's always wise to pause, to step back, and remember that markets don't go up forever. Eventually they correct, sometimes gently, sometimes violently, but they always do. I've made mistakes in the past, and I don't want this video to be about regret. It's not. It's about perspective. And if this gives you something to think about, something to reflect on, then I think it was worth making. Thanks for spending this time with me. And if you found this video helpful, considering sharing it with someone who needs to hear it. Thanks for watching, and see you in another video.